Good evening and welcome to Nice Drop of Port. We are back live this evening. Let's turn that music down a little bit. It's great to be back this evening. Matthew is with me on the poddy. How are you, Matt? How you going, mate?
Very good. Good to be back. Here we are.
Yeah.
Plenty to talk about.
Here we are. Plenty to talk about. Well, it was an enthralling game of football, I thought. I reckon the Western Sydney Wanderers Auckland game. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I mean, I had to watch it back. I actually went. And I guess we'll kind of get into this, but I was in the same stand as when the trouble happened. But I don't want to, no spoilers. Well, I'm sure we're going to get onto that. So yeah,
We will do.
I don't want to
Robbie,
say.
Robbie's here. Robbie's here. He's pop. Go on.
I was going to say. I don't want to say just because I was in that stand, that's because something happened. I want to put that out there. That's for sure.
I think the big news is the big news is that Matt went to a game. I don't think anyone's quite grasping this yet. You were there.
Yeah, it was a last minute thing. I wasn't going to. I was going to watching the TV, and then like a friend of the friend said something like, "Oh, we can't make it," or one person can't make it in the group. Do you want to go? So I've got no idea. I went on my bike. I rode my bike down there. I locked my bike up to a lamppost, and it's a really crappy bike. So I was pretty sure that it would still be there when I got back, and it was. And then just went in there and figured out where I got to go. So I was in that kind of if you sit in where the port is, I was. And you look to your right-hand side, I was like up there, up in that bit.
Oh.
It's like I feel like I'm doing this.
You were the antidote to all the trouble going on, Matthew. You rode your bike. No one stole your bike.
No one stole my bike.
You did not just dab. Tell me you did not just do.
I was trying to explain where I was in the crowd, and it felt like I actually went. I felt like I was going like that, and then I kind of threw that one that way. So. But
No.
So there you go. That's where I was. But we'll get into that. The trouble.
We will do. I actually wasn't at the game for people tuning in. I was crazily enough. I was over in Sydney, a long planned trip to see a mate, and I went to find Robbie, and we met for a coffee with another lad as well from a different podcast. But it was nice to meet you in person, Robbie.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say I was surprised by how large you actually are. I was pleasantly surprised. You're quite a sizable human being, which is not a bad thing.
You were bigger than I thought in real life as well.
Well,
Robbie.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw him, though, I thought, that's right, he was a goalkeeper. He can't be that short.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that picture that you put with the Arsenal player, Petit.
Yes.
And I had to Google him because I was like, geez, you're actually taller than I thought you were. Because I know he was quite tall and you were taller than him.
I've got him covered.
Yeah. You're quite a tall guy.
So yeah, it was. Well, I watched the game on the telly, and a cracking. I thought it was a cracking game, really, because the stakes feel really high now. So it kind of had that feel of this game matters. And I mean, we'll run through the game a little bit. Essentially, it was. I thought either side could have won it, especially in those last closing moments, right, where the Western Sydney Wanderers hit the crossbar, and Guillermo Mai had a sitter right near the end, which he skied over. And Sakai also had that kind of shot right deep into injury time, which so it could have gone either way. Well, Robbie, what was your take on the game?
I was impressed in the way that both teams kind of brought that finals intensity. That felt like a finals game. High quality. Both teams really had their chances, and either side could really have won it. I just had to flick back through the stats. There's actually 36 shots in total, which Auckland shaded. 5 shots to 4 on target, again in favour of Auckland. 6 big chances to 2. Still had less possession, so I'm still waiting to see that controlled kind of game. But the Wanderers are a great team, in form. Not an easy time to get them, and we more than matched. There's no, if that was like a first leg, I'd be very comfortable. Well, not very comfortable, but like I'd be very much looking forward to the second leg of a Wanderers game.
Yeah, they look like they could have beat us, though. I think that's what worried me a little bit. That is a semi-final or a final. It could go either way, really, where you're playing a team that are a pretty decent side. What are they? They're the top goal scorers, right, in the league?
Yes, by some margin like that. Just having a look at it now. Wanderers 50 goals on the season.
Wow.
You know, they can find the back of the net, and they've got some brilliant attacking players. So that's you'll see a lot of the Wanderers in the finals, I think.
Yeah. Matthew, you were at the game, eye in the sky this time. What do you make of the game?
Yeah, I actually thought it was quite. I think, I mean, again, I haven't been to many games, but it was probably the most frantic game that I've been to. And I think this goes into the whole, Auckland just can't seem to, I mean, one of my points is that, they've only won 1 in 5 at the moment. The rest of, I mean, I know they're not losing, but it feels, I wonder if other teams are just gelling and they're coming together. And because I actually thought that if they'd have walked away with a bit of a loss there, Auckland, I don't think they could have been too upset about it. So I thought Western were very good. I actually thought they were. It was a frantic game which may have played into their hands, but I mean, it's going to come up in a moment. There's probably going to be there's definitely one point that I want to make about one player that's probably going to cause a bit of controversy. But that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here about. But yeah, I just think they were the better team. I thought they were more frantic. I think they were just Auckland just don't seem to be able to get a grip of the game at the moment. I think that's a few games in a row now where they've struggled.
Yeah, the form is 4 draws and a win, basically, in our 5 games. So it's only 3 points from 5 games. You look at Western United below us. They won 5 of their last 5 games. And I think, and a few of the other teams, Robbie, in that top 6, they also seem to be in better form than us. Yeah. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on paper that's a fair statement. But you look at that, it's 1 win from the last 5, but it's not losses. You're not losing.
We're unbeaten. Yeah, we're unbeaten.
It's still some kind of momentum. It's not the momentum that you're really wanting, but you're not losing. And so, I've always kind of felt it's so hard over the course of a 24 to 30 game season, whatever league you're in. It's so hard to maintain that win the whole time.
Yeah.
The dip is happening for us now, but it's not a major dip. It's not an Adelaide like 1 win in their last 10 kind of form. That's a steep, if you're looking at graphs, and I love a graph. Adelaide season's kind of gone like that and then gone like that. Auckland,
they've slipped out. Adelaide have slipped out of the playoffs.
For the time, and they've actually just announced that their coach is departing at the end of the season. A coach who's taken I think it was the 5 seasons he's been in charge, he's taken them to 3 semi-finals. So he's only missed out on finals twice the time that he's been there. So like a lot of the fans aren't happy about that, the Adelaide fans. But comparing their form lines, Auckland's dip is happening now. And I've always maintained how over the course of a season, it's so hard to keep that high level the whole time. There's going to be a natural dip at some point. I would rather the dip happen now.
Yeah.
And we're still not losing. We just need that one game to get everything back into gear and head into finals with some kind of momentum.
Yeah, I think this is the problem, or if it is a problem, maybe that's not the right word, but of having this league system and then having these finals at the end, because really Auckland deserve to be called the best team of this season because they've had periods that have been better than anybody else. So when it gets to the end and they win the league, which I think they're going to go into anyway, that's where they deserve to walk away and say we were the better team. Whereas I feel Auckland's purple patches, I hope it comes back again, but it might have been it. That might have been that. It might have had that period where they're kind of almost, I know that you might not have heard this team, but they use it in America. Like they kind of boat raced the beginning of the season.
They boat raced us.
Boat raced. It's a phrase that the Americans use. It's kind of when you just kind of bull rush. You just basically just completely blast past people very quickly, very early. So, and I think that's what they did at the beginning. Right, a lot of teams just weren't ready, and they just, and I just think, I don't know. I just think there's more dynamic. Western Adelaide, even Western United. I think they are more, from what I've seen recently. Even though Adelaide have been dropping off, they feel like a bit more of a dynamic team. They feel like they're more of a team that's gonna hit you pretty hard. And I think Auckland, I think they've got to show me something. Got to
Yeah.
show them something.
Yeah,
This
I agree
dip
with
is going. This dip is continuing, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
it's a longish dip. Well, like you say, we've got 7 points in the last 5 games, which isn't terrible.
Yeah.
But going into these, we've got a big away game against Sydney
this'll be
FC
it.
this week. Victory the week after, Perth at home, and then Western United away. And it's still, what do we got to do to win that Premier Plate? We want to be going to Western United 3 points clear of them, right?
Yeah, correct.
With some good goal difference.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
funny you raised that. We spent maybe an hour in the office today. We were like in between working, obviously, but me and some of my colleagues did a bit of a predictor for the rest of the season, and so we did it on a consensus. If two people had the same result, then we go with that pick. So for Auckland, we had them winning against Sydney, drawing against Victory, beating Perth, and then losing to Western.
Yeah.
That took us to 53 points. Western United, we've got them winning their last 4, which also takes them to 53 points. So it comes down to goal difference.
See, I see Auckland grinding 2 draws, a win and a draw. So would that give them? They'd lose the league then, wouldn't they? If they did that, because you in your scenario, they'd have got more points, wouldn't they?
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
I think that would mean Western would win.
So they've got 3 away games and 1 home game. Auckland. That's what they've got left.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Western's got they've. Yeah. Wanderers away to Wanderers. Wanderers against Western on Sunday is a huge game.
Yeah,
that's a great end to the round. Then they're away to Brisbane, at home to Sydney, and then at home to Auckland.
It's when you always look back and look at some of those results and you think, oh, like the loss to Perth. You know, these are the kind of games you start looking back, then you think, oh,
they've only lost 2 games. So I disagree. I think a couple of wins in these last 4 games is all they need, I reckon. I mean, you say Western might win all 4 games, but I think 2 wins, a draw or 2 draws or a draw and a loss should be enough.
I really hate the fact that Perth loss is it's the one game I bloody called all season.
I'm surprised you've called it. I'm surprised you've reminded everybody there of the audience there. But
don't take it personally, Robbie.
No, I'm trying not to, but I get reminded. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
All right. So we've sort of worked out our parameters. We're going to be speaking to Nick Becker. I spoke to Nick Becker earlier today. Primarily, I've got him on really to have a little debrief on what happened at the game on Saturday. And for those that haven't heard or don't know, it can't be too many. It's been right across the media here in New Zealand this week. There was, I don't know what we call this, some fan violence. One person was hospitalised. And an Australian fan actually, and had to be given assistance to get back to Australia. And the Western Sydney Wanderers brought around 150 fans to Mount Smart. They did their march, and I wasn't there, but by all accounts, this is the most ferocious kind of away support we might have seen in the ground, which led to some violent skirmishes in terms of bottles and cans being thrown between. This is up in the east stand, so this isn't near where the ports sit. And some people were hit with bottles, some people were hit with cans, but the assault actually occurred, and Nick Becker told me this, down in the area, where they've got the slide, down that end, down where all the festivities are. Allegedly, the 46-year-old man, Auckland FC fan, actually struck a Western Sydney Wanderers fan down in that area. So this is pretty serious. I mean, this is the first time that we know of that stuff like this has happened. There's been kind of talk about a bit of argy-bargy, with the derbies this week. Well, Matt, let's go to Matt first. You were in the ground. Were you guys aware of anything untoward going where you were?
Apart from when you're in a football stadium and something's happening and everyone kind of stands up and starts to look to the side, but then it was tough to know if anything was, it was that kind of one where I think people just wanted to have a look. Maybe people aren't used to the whole segregation. Their fans are over there and our fans are over here. And I think there was a bit of a, But the one thing that did, I say, surprised me, I guess, coming from the UK, and I think the bit that you spoke to Nick about was the away fans were allowed to just walk wherever they wanted to walk. That's the thing that surprises me. That I think that's the thing that hit me, because I think I walked to go to the toilet, and I walked a little bit further down that stand there, and there was a guy with a Western Wanderers shirt kind of walking my way, so actually walking back to where I'd come from, which kind of surprised me. At first I thought, oh, I recognise that top. I was like, geez, that's an away fan, just you know, randomly walking wherever he wanted to. Yeah. So that surprised me.
Yeah, well, Robbie, you might have a bit of context for this. You know, anyone that's sort of schooled up, Western Sydney Wanderers seem to have been on the wrong side of a bit of bad publicity down the years. They're the first group that have, apart from the Wellington Phoenix fans, that have bought a travelling fan base. Does it surprise you that something like this has happened to Auckland FC, given that the fans aren't segregated, given that potentially, and again, Nick Becker from the club will get a chance to explain, you know, their feelings on it, but it's sort of come as a bit of a surprise that this happened over here?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing this chat with Nick, because I'd love to just know. You ask me for context. I'm really not sure. Like, I'd like to know the background to what they were prepared for, what the stadium was prepared for, if they consulted any other like fan groups. There was a great, I think it was a Radio New Zealand article saying that Phoenix fans had reached out to the stadium and the club to say, you know, get ready, or what they needed to prepare for, if they took any of that on board. The Wanderers have gotten bad publicity, yes, and they've been the victim. And look, I really don't want to speak on behalf of the Wanderers, because they are a passionate fan group. They have brought so much to the competition. So I certainly don't want to speak for them, but they have been on the end of some heavy-handed stuff from the police and stadiums here in Sydney. I just don't know what happened on the weekend, and I'm just not comfortable going one way. I'll back our fans to the end, but who started it, all that sort of thing. I just want to know what the stadium and what the club was prepared for, and what they plan to do going forward. I mean, it probably hasn't answered your question, but it's, without knowing details myself, I don't know. But yeah, it seems like they could have been prepared a bit better.
Yeah, because the weird thing is the fans were in different. When the Wellington Phoenix came and played last time, they were in a different place, I think.
Yeah, they were down to the left of the port as you look up from the south stand. Whereas I've noticed some of the other away fans are way up at the top of that other stand, right, the east stand.
Yeah. So I wonder what because usually most teams in the UK, you know, the away end, or the away sector is quite consistent. You know, they usually pick a space or a place where to put them, and that's usually where it's. Obviously, if they bring a bigger following, sometimes it expands a little bit and make a bit more space for it.
But here's a question for Robbie: with the high profile games in Australia, are they more segregated? Are they allowed to mill about down by where you buy drinks down in the underbelly of the ground, or is it kind of more segregated for those high risk games?
I believe they're more segregated. I actually can't speak to it because I haven't been to. I'm always in a truck or in a studio, so I can't really
looking at 17 screens. Yeah,
exactly. Like I've been to a handful of derbies, but like I'm always like I'm not in either end, home or away. I'm always in the fastest, so I don't get to see what goes on there. But they certainly are kept apart. Like the marches before the game, they're at different times. Since I really doubt that they'd be able to mingle freely, because just the risk of something happening it's too high. So you'd think that they would be kept separate as much as they could. Yeah.
All right. Well, it seems like a good point to roll Nick Becker's interview that I did before with him, and I started asking that very question: were they taken by surprise about what happened? I will try and find my mouse. Hold on. We've got a slight issue. Oh, my goodness. Here we go.
Technical problems.
This is Saturday take you and the club by surprise?
I think in short, definitely we've had our first season. Just quick clarification. There's actually only one person arrested, and that was the one who was he was from Auckland. I wouldn't call him one of our fans, but he was the one who hit the kid from the Wanderers. I'll get onto that in a second. But I would say that our policies and security process and operational process that we'd set up was inadequate, and we're reviewing all that. We're going to change it, and it wasn't as if there was no security, there's no police or anything like that. What I don't think the stadium and we'll take a share of blame on it as well was prepared for the kind of ferocious support we saw from the Wanderers group, and they are a team that have some very passionate supporters who probably have a reputation, whether it's rightly or wrongly, of causing trouble in the past as well. So we probably missed a couple of flags. So that's definitely something that we're going to review, and it won't happen again. And moving forward, for us, we are dedicated, and it's not who we are, what happened at that match, and we are dedicated to making sure that our club is a family-friendly environment. You think about the 11 home matches prior to last weekend where we haven't had any issues at all, and even against our biggest rivals in Wellington, there haven't been any trouble. Although I saw some yellow fever fans try to grab a moment in the sunshine on that one the other day. But I guess when you've lost 3 games to the new team in town across the season, with the last one being 6-1, you've got to find something to complain about. But we've had over 200,000 people through those gates now, and one dickhead hit some kid from Western Sydney and broke his jaw, knocked teeth out, and I've been in a lot of back and forth with both the Wanderers as a club. They're a good club. They're really well run. My counterpart there, a guy called Scott Hudson's a really good operator, a really good guy. We've been in touch with the family. We've spoken to Brendan, the kid who was, Brendan he's a lovely guy. He didn't cause any trouble. He had, come over to this match, got hit from behind, ends up in hospital with jaw surgery. His mum, the guy's only 23. The guy who hit him was 46. His mum had to fly. She had to borrow money to fly over and bring him back. So together with the Wanderers, we've kind of worked together on this one, and as a goodwill gesture from both clubs, we've actually refunded her flights over and accommodation costs that she had here. We felt that was an important thing to do, given that it happened in our backyard. It was something that we're not at all happy with. It's not who we are as a club. It's not who we speak to as our values are very much a community and family, and all of Auckland really. We love the passionate support of our hardcore fan base. We love the families that turn up and support the team with unrivaled passion. We've got the biggest crowd attendances in the league, and as I said, over 200,000 people through the gates, and one dickhead sort of ruins it all, and unfortunately that's something that the media love to talk about.
Just to be clear, Nick, this incident, it seems like it's a series of incidents. You say it was sort of one dickhead who's kind of hit one of the Western Sydney Wanderers fans, but it looks like what spurred that on was this can throwing between the Western Sydney Wanderers fans who are sat up in the East Stand next to just a normal sort of batch of Auckland FC fans, because the Port, of course, sit way down to the South Stand. But the assault was separate from the can throwing, or was it in the same melee?
Correct. No.
Yeah.
It actually happened, disappointingly, even more disappointingly for us. It happened in our family fan zone. It happened at the northern end of the stadium, and when the guy was he was literally just queuing out to get a drink. So it was it seemed to be just premeditated and just a bit it's just disgraceful behaviour. And so we are working with the league,
of course,
and everyone else to get that guy banned, because we don't want him at our games. So that's
of course.
That's
Yes, so two separate incidents, but the one that's got a lot of traction, of course, is the attack. But then there's vision of the can throwing from both sides, and you mentioned right off the back there, perhaps we were inadequately prepared. What could be done in future, or what could have been done to prevent that? We know overseas away fans don't sit in there with home fans. Away fans don't wander around parts of the ground with home fans. Are we at a point now, because we've had this jolt, that things will be different in the future, and how would they be different at this point?
I think I mean, I've personally worked in the Premier League at like Man City, Man United derbies, right? Like, and I'm not kind of making light of it, but like the police right down the entire segregation line. You've got a whole section segregated between them. There's at no point in anywhere the home and away fans actually interact. When outside, there's lines of police to walk the fans out. The police used to send us a highlights reel of their body cam of the fan behaviour, and that is true antisocial behaviour. That's generational, right? Like, we don't have that in New Zealand, and it's not. Yeah. I don't think we're certainly not going to go to those levels of security, because I think that actually can antagonise and can heighten it. I think what we need to do is a really clear action is to do a really strict and review of what our policies are. Look at where the problems started. Like that, you're right. The actual back and forth between the fans in the upper east stand, there weren't enough marshals there to control it. There probably wasn't enough segregation between them, and I don't think this is something that we will necessarily need to do for many teams, right? Obviously, the Wanderers will know in advance if they have a large number coming, and will be more prepared for teams like that. I think there's only a couple that would sit into that kind of higher risk category. For example, our next home game is a Sunday afternoon against Perth. I don't think there's going to be a huge number of Perth fans.
It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same.
No, exactly.
Did you know that amount of Western Sydney Wanderers fans were coming? Do you have that intelligence? I was going to say, did you know that amount of Western Sydney fans were coming to the game?
We didn't actually quite know it was going to be that many, but we were aware of because you see the purchases into the away bay, right? So, it was, to your first question, did it take us by surprise? And the simple answer is yes. And we should have been better prepared. We weren't, we hadn't, and that's down to the fact that we hadn't had any trouble across 11 games previously. 2 of those included derbies. There's other games where we had decent number of away fans travelling to. I think Sydney, right at the start of the season, had quite a large group of Sydney FC fans. So the operational team at the stadium, the operational team here, just didn't prepare themselves well enough, and we take that as a massive learning. We're not going to let it happen again.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned Wellington Phoenix. Some of their supporters have popped up in the media, like you said at the beginning. Wellington Phoenix Supporters Club, the Yellow Fever, quoted saying, I think there was a lack of understanding about what crowds are like. It's football. I'm not saying the crowds are violent, because they're not. And they were saying they had alerted the club through some feedback earlier in the season about the derbies. Is that kind of true, that you had the heads up there was some problems at the derbies? Were there problems, or is this just the opposition sticking one in while we're a bit down?
It's typical Wellington, isn't it, Dale? Like whenever there's always a group of people who love to point fingers in hindsight, and I'm not going to say much more on that. But I'm unaware of any incidents at our home derbies. Certainly, I don't know the ones that this group, the Yellow Fever, are referring to. I personally think our derbies were incredibly positive. Like, the banter was there. It was fun. It got a little bit edgy at times, but it never went too far. It was funny. It was what football should be. It was tribal. It was passionate, but it never crossed the line. And I don't think New Zealand fans would cross that line. I think we're way better behaved as a nation, and we don't have that kind of aggression that you might find in an Old Firm derby in Glasgow, or a City United, Liverpool. Like it just doesn't exist here. That's generational angst that's built out of a class system structure in the UK. Like New Zealand doesn't operate that way. And I think, fair play for the Yellow Fever to try to get their name in the paper. Nobody's really talking about them at the moment. Maybe that's why they were doing it.
All right. Okay, just a sort of final point on the security. I guess we're going to play finals football. It looks very much like we'll have a home semi-final if we finish in the top two, of course. That could well be against one of the bigger Sydney or Melbourne teams who may well bring a bigger contingent than we saw of fans. Yeah. Are you seeing? Would you see that there will be special measures put in place, like those fans will get more security getting to the ground? There'll be bigger spaces between the sets of fans. Any suggestion of any segregation of fans milling around Mount Smart in the future?
No, I don't. I think definitely to your point, it's who's the opposition, and we need to treat these a little bit as there's one step of let's review all of our security policies and process and operational processes, and then secondly, let's look at who the opposition is, how many people are travelling, and deal on a case by case basis. I can't see there being like full on segregation that you see in Europe. That's not going to be the case. I don't think it's necessary. I think just a little bit more sensibility. And also with the other thing with those clubs is they travel over. They will travel with supporter marshals, members of their own club, members of the opposition club, obviously, and there's a better lines of communication, there'll be better planning, better preparation for it. So, I think it'll remain a really positive and safe environment, and there won't be the need to kind of have like full draconian kind of measures in place. But again, we'll just make sure everybody's safe on the day.
Okay, good stuff. All right, well, back to the football a little bit. So we're only a handful of games to go. Only one more home game, couple of away games. We're kind of pretty much there in the where we would want to be. What is the mood around the club now, as opposed to last time we talked to you? Yeah,
I can say that the guys are in a great place. The general vibe is really positive. They've together as a team. These guys are amazing. They you see it. They play for themselves. They play for each other, not for themselves. And two very different things there. They've been. I guess it's a case of when you get to this point of the season, you've got to trust in the training, trust in your teammates, and you get it. You don't have to do anything drastically different. Like you think of opposition that we've got to play. Okay, we drew with Victory. We beat Sydney. We've won one, lost one with Western United, and we've got a revenge on that Perth result that we need to do for our next home game, right? So we've played these teams already. We know what to expect, and you've got to go through. It's really interesting. We had a guy called Jamie Pennell, who was ex-SAS. Come and talk to the guys, and he was talking. The general piece was about his experience when he was in the SAS, and talking about how when you actually get in a real pressure moment, you just have to trust in the training, and he talks about it like being in the flow, and the guys are in the flow, like they know what they got to do. They're going to get out there and do it, and they're feeling very good about themselves as a collective.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. So May is going to be a big time for Auckland FC and Auckland FC fans either way. We're likely to be in those semi-finals. What about where these games will be played? Presumably a semi-final would definitely be at Mount Smart. Is that correct? Would that be confirmed?
I mean, there's no certainties in life other than death and taxes.
Of course.
But the league, so just so everybody knows, the league is in charge of selecting the venue, selling the tickets, operationally in charge of the finals. although APL, we've been talking a lot to them, back and forth with them. They verbally, and I think probably in writing, said that the semi-final will be at Go Media. We're also pushing really hard to have the final there as well. No decision has been made, but obviously it's a choice between Go Media and Eden Park. Personally, we want to play at Go Media. That's our position, 100%, and we're pushing hard for that. Eden Park's actually not available on the league's preferred date, so it's obviously the grand final is the weekend of the King's birthday, is it? And so Saturday is available at Go Media, Sunday is available at Eden Park, and so we're just waiting for them to make a decision. I also don't like talking about the grand final. So I
understand that. But it's one of the things we have been talking about a little bit on the podcast, because we know how it all works, and we know other teams have had special privileges to play at a smaller ground, because you need over 30,000 usually to hold a grand final. Yeah. But I understand the position of the club, and I think the position of all the fans is we want to stay at Go Media because that's our home ground.
Definitely, and you can increase the capacity of Go Media by putting seats into the north end, to make it up to 30, I think it's like 30. Don't quite remember the exact number. I think it's like 31, 32,000. So.
Okay, so that pushes it over. Good stuff. All right. Quick question on the women's team, and just looking for an update, really. There was some reporting by Bonnie Jansen, who's been on our podcast earlier in the year, saying that there potentially has been some delays. Is there any risk that we won't join the Ninja A-League Women's next season?
To be honest, we're planning to be in the Women's League next season, so. From our side, nothing has changed. We are still awaiting final approval from the APL, which is the organisation that runs the A-Leagues, both the men's and the women's. And at the moment, it's ourselves and MacArthur who have just been paused on that to find out what's happening. So we'll know that in the next couple of weeks. And there's not much more else to update on that. As soon as we get that kind of green light, we'll be able to announce coach, start to recruit players, all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern.
Great. Okay. And just a final question, a couple of questions around ticketing. And I should have asked, because I'm a season ticket holder. For the finals footy, does my season ticket get me into the finals, or do I need to buy more tickets?
Great question, Dale, and I've been briefed and prepped to answer this one correctly. So if I get it wrong, so with the APL taking over the games, it means that everybody has to buy a ticket for the game. But there's a little asterisk there. So members are given an exclusive window to purchase their seats that they have had all season, and so they get the first crack at that. They can also buy additional seats at that point too. So you have it. They stage the release of tickets for any home final. And the good news about that is we're currently in a process of renewing our members for next season. So anybody who is a member would have received comms from the club to say you're currently in a 2-week exclusive period. If you wanted to upgrade, add seats, all of that sort of stuff, get in touch with us, get in touch with our ticketing team via email or calling them, and they'll sort that out for you. The other good thing about the membership for next season piece is we're going to go on sale for open it up to everybody to buy membership for next season on the 22nd of April, which is I think Monday week. It's the Monday after Easter, and not Easter Monday, the day after that, whatever the Tuesday is. And that means that the people will be able to buy membership for next season, but they'll also have access to that priority finals ticket window as well. So it's a real win-win. We want to grow our membership base. I mean, I can tell you now that being a member, we're working on a fantastic members benefits program, which is all about. You get some great discounts on clubs. It means that you've got the cheapest ticket in the stadium to watch the guys, but you also get invited to events where you get access to meet the players, to have exclusive member events. And because we're part of Bill Foley's wider businesses, where he's got venues like Tyler Street or the Brit next door, or if you fancy a fancy dinner, Soul Bar or something like that, and also his wine business. If you like a drop of wine instead of a drop of port.
Don't forget the vineyards. Don't forget the vineyards.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's got the wineries, and we're going to have member benefits to go to his restaurants or buy his wine as well. So we're actually bringing that whole kind of wider benefit piece for our members as well, and we've set ourselves a target to get up, nearly double what we had in terms of this season, and we're really excited about the potential of reaching that too.
Great stuff. All right, and you're off to Sydney, the game this weekend?
Yeah. I'm joining the. I think it's about 150, 200 port travelling across to the game, which is really exciting. Yep. Looking forward to it. It'll be a good one for Steve to go back there and actually. This will be the first time he's played them. We were at the Allianz when we played MacArthur in Unite round, but he hasn't played Sydney there yet. So. It's a big game for everyone, and we certainly are going to be fighting very hard to get those 3 points.
Great stuff. All right, Nick Becker, Chief Exec of Auckland FC, thank you very much for joining us today.
Cheers, Dave.
All right, well, plenty to discuss in that interview. Yeah, I asked him some questions about things that we just need to know as well, like, am I going to get more tickets for these finals, or have I got to pay for some more? So that one was just a personal question.
Personal question there,
I couldn't find any information on the internet about it, so I just asked the chief executive on the podcast. Is the easiest way, I think.
Might as well.
That's right. He's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. No, interesting. Well, let's start back at the top of his interview, which was, obviously about this violence, this incident. He said, they accept that they weren't adequately prepared for the ferocity of the support from Western Sydney Wanderers. So that's kind of an idea of where they were, I guess. You guys' thoughts to that one?
Yeah, I mean, a little surprised, if I'm honest, given that the players that have been in the A-League before. You got Steve Corica, who's experienced Sydney derbies before. You would have thought maybe he'd lean, or the club would lean on them just for hey, what do we expect here? I guess a little disappointed with that, but it's you learn from your mistakes, and this is very much a learning thing for the club. Now that it's happened, make sure it doesn't happen again. Ideally, you wouldn't want it to happen in the first place, but I guess look, shit happens, and it happened on the weekend.
Yeah, so, I mean, he said 200,000 fans have been through the gates, and one dickhead has caused that real point of violence. But then there was the throwing between the sections there. And it's kind of like, I asked him, are we going to have a segregation situation? And Nick seemed really reluctant to want to go down that path. But potentially they'll just put more, maybe they'll just put more stewards in there. Maybe save 3 or 4 or 5 more rows either side of where the away fans are. And like you said, depending on who we're playing, presumably if Western Sydney Wanderers are over here for a semi, that would add some intrigue and spice in the terraces.
Look, you can never plan for dickheads. It's traveling fans or home fans. There'll always be a minority of idiots looking to cause problems. So you can't ever expect things to go smoothly every time. But I guess if you can plan for that, get everything ready, and just kind of negate it as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a perfect world, the opposition fans should be able to go into the family zone and get themselves a drink or check it out or see what's going to happen.
Totally.
But it's not as people that usually start with in a perfect world usually then say, but it isn't, and I think that's really what's happened. He should be able to go in there and do whatever he likes, but that's what's happened is terrible. The fact he's been sounds like he's been blindsided, the guy's been hit
Cow-
from behind
yeah.
or
Sucker
like
punch. Sucker punch from
or
behind
parrot
while
punch,
he's
they
queuing
call
for a
it.
drink. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. But I know he hasn't got on there. I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't anything kind of he was going to mention that. I thought he was going to go the route where they're going to start to amp it up a little bit. Like there's going to be more of a segregation. They're going to identify a better place. That's what we're going to stick with. People just aren't going to be able to wander around. I mean, like in the UK, when you go to an away ground, obviously you've got to make your way there. And if you've made your way there personally, then you do mingle with the other fans, and there is obviously a chance of something happening. But they do everything they can to make sure that they just do not interact. The coaches go into a separate place, and you go to your own bar, your own seat, your own area. So I don't know. I think you'll see more. I think there'll be a bit more stuff going on.
Yeah, which is a shame though, because it's not.
It is.
It's very foreign to New Zealand to see this kind of thing happen. Like we don't see that happen as much in Super Rugby, NRL, in New Zealand. So it's very much a learning thing, I think, just for the country as a whole, how they and how they handle it.
Yeah, and I think what he was saying, this is not who we are, and one of the great things of the Auckland FC experience has been just how much of a family environment it is. And so when I heard this has happened, it seems so far removed from what we've seen so far. I like the way Nick describes what goes on in England as generational antisocial behaviour, caused by generational angst and the class system, which I think summarised it all up quite well, actually.
That was pretty good. I dread to think when Blues come to play Villa the next time, and they just let Villa fans wander around the stadium. I mean, it's just I don't know. I don't even.
But we don't want to go. I mean, I think the point Nick's making, we don't want to go down that road. Yeah, and he's right. If you put a bunch of police out, lining things up, it's kind of it only says we're expecting you to behave badly, right?
Yeah, it looks terrible as well when you have all that, the police and the netting and the segregate. Yeah, it just looks it's just not a great look. And I guess that's what he's maybe leaning towards. Is like, I don't want the cameras to pan up, and from the outside looking in, people like, oh Christ, look at Auckland.
And I don't think it's needed. I just think probably up in that stand there needs to be more distance. But I also wonder whether the cans being sold might be eased off a little bit, because a can is a projectile. And I've actually been in the port, and some people have lobbed a can towards for some reason towards the ground, towards the the goal in front, maybe trying to hit the goalie. But yeah, it is a small issue. And some of the reporting this week was the club doesn't understand, Auckland FC doesn't understand that a football crowd is different from a rugby crowd or a cricket crowd. But I don't know, overseas, of course, whether there's, I don't know. I hope this is a kind of isolated event. But of course, I reckon it'll be horses for courses for the club. Perth coming over, can't see those guys bringing a big contingent.
No.
A long way to go. Yeah. So
it's very much an isolated thing. Just I've said it before here on the pod, because the A-League's so spread out, you're not going to get that traveling diaspora of fans every single week. Obviously, the Melbourne Derby, Sydney Derbies, because they're in the same city, they're going to travel. And I think most fan bases have their own tour of duty for whatever, the Wanderers, it was this game, and Wellington as well, I think. They travelled to Auckland and Wellington. The Port fans are going to do it this week. The Port of Call is the Sydney game.
That's right. So it's about 150 going over, yeah.
That doesn't happen every single week. So I think it is going to be an isolated thing. Outside of derby games, I think this is isolated. So it's just the learnings they take from this and how it's implemented, what they change going forward.
Yeah. And what about the finals? Well, let's talk a little bit about the semi-final or a final. Would there be a bigger contingency coming over from the Melbourne clubs or Sydney clubs if they get we don't know.
You don't know. You'd expect. So I'm just trying to think back to the Wellington victory semi-final in Wellington. I think that there was, and I think someone in the comments will correct me. There was a healthy contingent of Victory fans that travelled across.
Yeah.
You'd expect the 150 that were in Auckland on the weekend, you'd probably expect maybe double that. It's a grand final. They'd want fans to go. Visiting fans, you'd want a decent number there.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the feedback on YouTube, Nick's World of Football podcast says segregation does happen at the Sydney derbies, but fans mingle outside the stadium. Yeah, so once they're in there, there's segregation, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's part of the course, isn't it?
Yeah. Interesting. I asked Nick, of course, about where this final is going to be played if, touchwood, we get there. What was interesting is that they can extend Mount Smart above 30,000, which ticks the box for what Bonnie Jansen told us a few weeks ago. Her intel was that it's got to be above 30,000. So, and the club is like all the fans, they want to be at Mount Smart, right? Home ground.
Yeah, I don't know. I think watch this space. I mean, it could be quite easy to read between the lines there, and just maybe there is. But in the interview, I think he mentioned that Eden Park wouldn't be possible because of the timing or something. Did he say? Or
so Eden Park is not available on the Saturday of the grand final weekend when it should be played. The Saturday is it always played on a Saturday, Rob?
Yes.
Right.
But if they could say, hey, we've got Eden Park lined up, can you move it to a Sunday? We can sell 60,000+ tickets. Is that? Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's out of the club's hands. It's totally so the APL run the semis and all the ticketing and the arrangements, but that the semi-finals, the finals. Yeah.
I think he was quite keen to let that get that point across that it's not a club decision.
No, absolutely. We'll watch that space. I mean, we'll worry about the semi-finals first, probably.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I would say. Other interesting points of Nick's interview, bringing the old ex-SAS guy in, ex-SAS coming in to talk to the guys about being in those pressure moments and trust the training and be in the flow. I like all that.
Yeah, awesome move by the club. I saw an article about that when it happened, and the point was basically through the course of the season, hearing the same voice week in, week out, it gets a bit, monotonous. So to bring someone from the outside, especially a soldier who's been in very high pressure situations, his point, Jamie's point about trusting your teammates, because in his situations, if you don't trust your teammates, you're dead. So there's a lot of lessons that the players could have taken from that, and hopefully it sinks in, and hopefully we see an upturn in fortunes. But applaud that move. Thinking outside the box, I'm always for.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this weekend we've got Sydney coming up. Well, what's that game going to be like? I mean, we've got Steve Corica going back to his home, really, isn't it? What was
Revenge game.
Revenge game. For Sydney FC because of the 1-0 over here, I guess. Were they? I guess that.
No, it's very much a Corica revenge game. The way
Corica revenge, yeah. Or him on the club.
Absolutely.
Him on the club. I see. I get
back it in. Yeah.
Well, did he leave in terrible circumstances, or was it? We don't really know, do we? So it was a long time he was there, though.
Yeah, he was basically there from day one as a player. Went through coaching, the youth setup, assistant coach to head coach, had a lot of success with them, won the Australia Cup the season he got punted, but then the start to the league season was very bad. So from the outside looking in, the terms probably weren't the greatest because you get fired. So that's just, it's not going to be on great terms anyway. But
someone's just mentioned that. Yeah.
The first
he got sacked, didn't he? Says Tim.
Yeah.
He did.
Tim's banged
I think it was 4 or 5 games into the season, and they hadn't won and hadn't scored off the top of that. I could be wrong on that, but it wasn't the greatest start, so they needed to make a change. But huge element, Corica is such a central figure to this. He has a point to prove against his former club. It's probably a little bit selfish for his part to think that way. and he might say he wouldn't. But then it's also the immediate thing of, getting his club sort of back on track. They want a good result. Sydney's pretty vulnerable as well, I think. Just they lost in Asia to a Singaporean club in the Champions League 2 in the return legs next Wednesday. They lost that 2-0, so they're going to be hurting. There's the travel factor. I think they would have only got back to Sydney today, so it's a training session and a half heading into Saturday. So
that's tough.
And Sydney's such a difficult team to get a read on because they got such an array of talent, but they're playing so individually. They haven't put in a proper team performance yet, and that's over the course of the whole season. And Auckland's such a physical team. Corrick is going to have him fired up because he's going to have a point to prove. I think Sydney are very ripe for the picking here.
Man,
is he an emotional man, Steve? Is he a banging on the wall? Come on, we're here to beat these bastards type of guy. Like, it doesn't strike me that sort of guy.
No, he doesn't come across that on the sideline.
He has his moments. He certainly has his moments. I'll defer to the moment that we equalised against Adelaide United and he turned around and gave it to the fans. So he certainly got that in his locker.
Yeah, Robbie's really thrown my, because we're also going to do predictions later on, and I had my kind of predictions set in my head, but there's quite a few things you've mentioned there, particularly the travel. That's kind of thrown my. Might think we might do better than I thought, actually.
It's a really tricky one because I feel it can go one of two ways. Sydney's obviously going to be hurting from having lost the first leg and knowing that they've got basically they can't rest on this game because they're playing for finals as well. They're still on the edge of the six. They're far from guaranteed. But very few times this season have they put in a good team performance. They've got individual stars who can save them. Douglas Costa, Joe Lolly, Adrian Sekic off the bench. They can score. But over the past month, when you watch their games, they get ripped apart. Teams go right through them. The defense just is shredded. Midfield gets shredded. So if Auckland can get things right, like I said, I think they're right. They're right to be picked.
Well, let's do our predictions now. We've still got Matt on the socials to come, but because we're talking about the game. Robbie, what's the score going to be on the weekend then?
I think a 2-1 or a 3-1 to Auckland. Sydney can score, but I just think they might struggle against the physicality of Auckland and the Corica factor as well. I think they might grab a late goal.
Okay, 2 or 3-1 victory. Matthew?
Yeah. I had, before Robbie, a bit of dialogue there has kind of completely thrown what I was going to think about. So it's the trip that is a hard gig to go all the way to, have to come back if they've only just got back now to turn around.
Where were they playing?
Singapore.
Jeez. I mean,
and it's tough conditions there as well. And they played their strongest lineup as well.
Yeah, and against a team like Auckland that just, they are a fit team. I think there's bits of Auckland that I'm a little bit not particularly happy with what they're doing, but they're always fit. They're always, they play right to the end. So taking all that into account, I'm going to think. I'm going to stick to what they're doing. I think 1-1. I think it's going to be another draw.
1-1.
1-1.
1-1.
Actually, if Robbie hadn't have had his bit of dialogue there, I was going to give Sydney the win. So
right.
I'm going to give it a draw. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I'm going to go for. The Port are travelling over there, so that's going to be a kind of big occasion. It'll be the Port's biggest travel, apart from down in Wellington. So there'll be a little bit of support in the ground. Mind you, it's a big old stadium, isn't it? They're in is it the Allianz?
Yep.
So I don't know how much
40,
that'll make.
40,000, I think.
Yeah, that's 150 people. Even with our own Blair there, it's going to be hard to make much of a difference. I think we need to get a win. We need to get 2 wins to go. I think we'll get one of our wins away in Sydney. I think you're right. The Corica factor. I'm going to go for a big game. 3-2. 3-2. Guillermo Mai with the winner, I reckon.
Redeem himself, I think, after what he did last
He will.
weekend. Yeah.
All right. That brings us on to our last segment of the show.
Bit of music.
Bit of mood music.
I need it. Social media. Where do we start? Well,
What is happening? What is happening on the socials
I'm not
this
here
week?
just to talk about social media, but I'm going to talk about what's in the social medias. I feel a bit awful after listening to Nick Becker and how he explained it, because, I mean, the first thing that's covered it is obviously the violence at Mount Smart Stadium. I mean, I unfortunately called my little title bit "Bring Back the Biff." Maybe I should take that back. I think that's maybe a little bit of little bit tasteless, a bit lowbrow for this podcast. But yeah, that seemed to take up most of the oxygen in the room there with what happened in Mount
What's
Smart.
the general feeling? Is it that isolated incident, or people think it's getting worse than it is? Or,
yeah. I think it's just a bit of an isolated incident, and like Nick said, they've had a lot of people. I think a lot of people said that. There's a lot of people that have come through that stadium, from all parts. Wellington, Derby, and other teams have come across, and nothing has happened. So, yeah, it's one-off. Let's hope it's a one-off, and that's all it is. And yeah, I just can't believe that it was the game that I turned up to be. I've never been in that stand before, and something happened. I didn't even really know something was going on either. It's like
you go to a game and then we get pumped 4-0. You go to a game and
there's violence. There's violence.
There's a common thread here, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it comes in threes, as they always say. So who knows what's going to happen to the next one? Yeah. Anyway, moving on from that, I'm sure Nick wants to put that to bed. The other bit, there's still a feeling that there's a bit of a rugby conspiracy when it comes to the news. People are still feeling that if you flick your TV on at 6 o'clock or whatever, 7 o'clock on a TV1 or TV3, you don't get any football coverage. You get rugby, you get more rugby, you might get a bit of netball, you get a bit of cricket.
Bit more rugby right at the end.
Bit more rugby at the end, and then if you're lucky, you might get the result. You might get a little ticket thing going along the bottom that'll tell you that Auckland have just won 2-0, or they've come back from 1-0 and won 2-1. So that still seems. People feel like there's a problem out there.
I still think it's the timing of the news bulletin, because the bulletin is a 6 o'clock news, so the sport doesn't come on until 6:35. Yeah, and that's when the game's not even finished. So I do have some kind of sympathy for it.
I'm not letting common sense filter into that in the socials. I'm not here for reasonable.
People still grumbling. There's still grumbles. Out there. Fair enough.
Social media. There's different rules. It's upside down.
Yes, that's right.
It's not what you normally expect. It is the Wild West. It's roughly. I was going to say there's different laws. There's no laws. That's the problem.
It's lawless.
So it's lawless.
Quite literally.
Another quick one. Unfortunately, someone left their Auckland shirt. I think it had Guillermo May on the back. Guillermo May, large. Found it was lost.
It won't be his one, because he's a little guy.
No, so he's this guy's put a thing out there, put a post out there, hoping that someone might have found his Auckland shirt with Guillermo May on the back. So
there you go.
Anybody out there with any leads or anybody with any information?
Let us know.
Don't contact me. Just contact somebody that you get. I don't know.
They can contact us. It'd be good to be useful.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
it'd be nice to be useful.
Contact Dale.
Contact
Dale. But just try and find him. You'll find him there somewhere.
Yeah, it's right.
And that's about it. The only other thing that I've got at the bottom is that I'm a bit concerned. I'm a bit worried. We're getting closer and closer to the Auckland-Perth game. And I've heard nothing back from my sources in regards to Mr. Lazaridis. Stan the man. I'm worried. I'm concerned. It's all gone way too quiet for my liking.
Let me talk to my people. I will see what I can do.
Oh, fantastic! That sounds great to me. That's good to me. We were start here in the McGann household. We were starting to fret. We were starting to.
You're fretting.
There was moments where we'd just be watching the TV, and my daughter would go, "Have you heard back from?" I'm working on it. All right, I'm working on it. I've got people out there. I'm putting the feelers out. I'll see what I can do.
How hard have you worked on this, though? I mean, have you been to his house? Have you rang his phone number? Have you followed him to work?
Or has he just complained on the podcast?
Yeah, sent an email and then said I can't find him.
If I make enough noise, I'm hoping that somebody will hear. If I throw enough things out, if you throw enough at the wall, that stuff that begins with S, then hopefully some of it will stick, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just chucking a lot of stuff out there, hoping something comes about it. So we'll see how we go. I'm sure they're on it. I'm sure that I've got some real serious people looking at it. I'm sure that something's going to come out of it.
That's lovely. All right. Well, I think that about wraps the show up this week. Interested to hear from Nick that renewals for season tickets are kind of open this month. What I was slightly nervous about was if you're a member, right, and you bought a season ticket last year, it will automatically renew on your credit card unless you choose to say I'm cancelling my membership subscription, which means mine will definitely tick over and I'll definitely be getting a membership next year because I am terrible for this stuff.
I think most will be in that camp.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Yeah.
I'll be happy to go for a second season.
Yeah, well, it's been a great first so far, hasn't it?
It's been great. It's been great. It's been all right.
Yeah.
So Sydney away this weekend. We're going to be... What time is that going to be on over here? Like 6, 7 o'clock at night? 8 o'clock? Saturday? Yeah. Is it Saturday? Is it Saturday?
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock your time.
Nice. That's a lovely time, eh?
Oh, yeah, it should be good. I'll
can't believe it, eh? Football in the daytime. Or evening time. It's still a real treat for us, eh?
Yeah, I tell you, that Sunday at 5 o'clock is such a good. That's just.
And that will be a cracking game as well.
Yeah.
Western Sydney Wanderers against Western United. And just quickly before we go, shout out to the AFC reserves as well. 0-0 draw in the Northern League against Eastern Suburbs, so they're 9th at the moment. 2 points, so 2 draws and a loss from their first couple of games, but loving what I'm seeing from them.
Yeah. We spoke to the manager, didn't we? A couple of episodes ago.
Yeah.
Yes, Luke Kessler. Yes,
Luke. Yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening, watching. Do subscribe. Do give us a like. Do tell your mates. That was a nice drop of port, and enjoy the game this weekend. Up the port. Let's give Sydney FC a good hammering.